I'm the kind of person who will put up a strong front but be dying inside. That's how it started.
My name's Debbie, and I'm a recovering drug addict and alcoholic. I've pretty much been battling my addiction for 20 years or more. And let's back up on how it really started. It started out recreational, and from there I had lost my grandfather, and I didn't know how to deal with reality.
When I was 3, I was taken away from my mom and my stepdad because they were heavily into drugs. And if it weren't for my grandparents picking me up from Florida and bringing me to Pennsylvania, I would be in the foster care system right now with my brother because, my parents were never there.
Drugs and alcohol are only the symptom. It's something that you do so you don't feel.
After I was taken from my mom, I didn't see her for about 9 years, and my dad lived with us, sort of, but he would come and go as he pleased, and he would promise me things that I just knew would never happen. One day he left for good. He stops by whenever he wants to, but it's not much.
My firstborn child was Danielle, and I loved her very much, and I still do, but I couldn't take care of her because the drug addiction and alcoholism was more powerful.
This past Christmas, I went to Florida to visit my mom. Me and her are more like friends. It's not like a mother-daughter relationship that most people have, I guess. She's been clean for 2 years now.
I put my drug addiction and alcoholism above my family, my children. I do have 3 children, and none of which live with me to this day. And then instead of dealing with that, I tried to hide that pain by drinking and drugging. I had to give my one son up for adoption.
My grandparents are such great people. They've taken care of me all of my life, and they mean the world to me. My grandparents, they try to fill the gap that my dad and mom left, but it's just not the same.
I've been in rehabs. I currently live in a halfway house. May 28th of this year, I will have a year clean and sober.
In 6th grade, all this started catching up with me, and I just couldn't take it. I began to get really depressed, and nearly every night for the next 3 years, I will cry myself to sleep. I'd cry in the seclusion of my bedroom, not loud enough that anybody could hear, and I just knew something had to be done.
I was really close with Danny through all of middle school, and throughout the whole time, even though no one really told me any rumors because I was close to her, and at the same time, if she had a problem, I knew that I could have helped her, but I just didn't know, and I think that people need to become more aware of it because no one even wanted to talk about it.
About halfway through 6th grade, I started to cut myself. Never deep enough to die, but deep enough to know I was alive.
You don't realize when a person is suffering from depression until it's almost too late.
One day I was questioned by my grandmother about the razor blade lying in my shower and the bloody tissues in my trash can. I said I cut myself shaving. I didn't have an answer to why I had a razor blade. I kept making excuses whenever they saw the cuts on my body. I wanted to tell them, but I felt like a huge disappointment. I didn't know what to do. I had no one to confide in. I was so alone.
And we didn't know that Danielle was suffering from depression until I started finding blades under shampoo bottles, blades in her nightstand drawer, and she had been going to therapy. And we were at therapy one night, and the therapist called us back and said that she had something to tell us.
In the beginning of 9th grade, I started going to a psychologist. Nothing she said or did helped. I continued cutting for a long time. One day she made me tell my grandparents what I've been doing to myself. This was the hardest thing I had ever had to do in my life. I looked at the ground and confessed. I said, for the past 3 years, I've been cutting myself. My grandmother started crying, and she was saying how she saw all the signs but never did anything. To this day, she tells me how bad she feels about not knowing.
And depression comes along with this. Anybody that is, especially if you've ever done drugs, it messes up your head. And I had been on pretty much every antidepressant imaginable. Just a week ago, I took myself off of everything because they don't know what to put you on, and some of the things they had me on, I felt like killing somebody. You know, I got very, the rage came back, and I don't want to feel like that.
People ask me why I didn't think about my grandparents when I was cutting. Truth is, I didn't think about anything when I was doing it. I was like a zombie. My psychologist made me go to the Ephrata Hospital, and I talked to all the doctors there and stuff and the social workers, and I was really scared. The one thing I'll never forget about this night is a doctor walked by me and saw all the cuts on my arms and legs, and he said, "You know, you really shouldn't do that," and he walked away. I was so stunned. That's all he had to say to me. I could take my life right now, and that's the only advice he had. I went home later that night and went to school the next day. I told one person where I was that night, and of course rumors started flying. This made me feel terrible because, like, nobody actually knew what happened. I got a new psychologist after this, and she helped me a lot. And we met on a weekly basis, and I completely vented to her. I came to the conclusion that I needed help. If I didn't get help, it was like my life on the line. I didn't want to be that person. I have so much potential, and I'm wasting it on razor blades and tears.
I thought I had no fears, and I do. You know, tough me. But I have fears. We all have fears. So now I'm getting to know me again.
It took a lot of time, but I got better. The urge to cut is, and probably always will be, there at the back of my head. I now have over 100 scars on my thighs, wrists, and stomach.
There's a lot of hurt and pain that comes with all this. But I'm trying to make amends, and I know I can't change the past, and I can't, all I can ask for is forgiveness.
This whole thing made me who I am today. If I can go through all this, I can do anything. Today I'm self-confident and brave. If it weren't for this experience, I wouldn't be able to tell my story and possibly save a life.
Just on the night.